Hey y'all, happy Pride. I'm jumping on here right now after I pulled up going through Facebook and found that one of the people I follow on Facebook is David Earl Williams III. He is a politician, a local politician, and a U.S. Navy veteran, Democrat, author of LIT series, Valor Tale, and his hashtag is Vote to Will. But anyway, he posted 6 minutes ago on Facebook that here in North Carolina, Senator Tom Tillis, our senior senator, has announced he will not seek re-election just one day after opposing a major legislative package tied to Trump's agenda. His departure opens up a Senate seat that Democrats could potentially flip in 2026 midterms. Now, I see this as good news because he was actually doing just more than this, blocking clean energy bills. And this big, beautiful bill includes cuts to future companies that have alternative energy sources such as wind, solar, water, all of those things. And also in the bill, there's going to be a tax on these companies who cannot prove that they don't have one iota of any Chinese material in their products. Yes, that is part of the big, beautiful bill. And so he came out against the bill. And as soon as he did on Saturday, Trump jumped on Truth Social and said that they were going to find someone to primary Tom Tillis. And so I clicked on the link, and this was reported by NBC News. And the link here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is my Facebook page, and here's David O. Williams III posting this, and you see right here NBCnews.com. So I clicked on it and got the article, which is from NBCnews.com, verified source, and it's under their 2026 election information. And here, this is Tom Tillis, the senator from North Carolina. He did cast his vote in a straw vote Saturday against this bill. And of course, right here you see drawing President Donald Trump's ire because Trump wants this bill passed by next Friday, which is Independence Day. So going through the article, this was posted at 1:37, just about 30 minutes ago. Senator Tom Tillis announced Sunday, today, that he would not run for re-election one day after he drew President Donald Trump's ire for opposing the party's sweeping domestic policy package, which is a name for the big, beautiful bill. The decision opens up the seat in battleground state North Carolina that was already expected to be one of the most hotly contested races in the 2026 midterms. And the reason that people were saying it was going to be one of the most hotly contested races is because most of the Democrats and progressives are expecting former Governor Roy Cooper to jump into the race for that seat, and it would have been a contest between Tom Tillis and Roy Cooper, and most people were saying that Roy Cooper would beat Tom Tillis. And so Tillis issued a lengthy statement about his decision, saying he has not been enthusiastic about seeking a third 6-year term in the Senate. As many of my colleagues have noticed over the last year, and at times even joked about it, I haven't exactly been excited about running for another term, he said. That is true since the choice is between spending another 6 years navigating the political theater and partisan gridlock in Washington, or spending that time with the love of my life, Susan, our 2 children, 3 beautiful grandchildren, and the rest of our extended family back home. It's not a hard choice, and I will not be seeking re-election. Wow. Wow. What a gift. What a gift. After Tillis voted against advancing the GOP's massive domestic policy bill Saturday, Trump attacked him in a series of social media posts and threatened to meet with potential primary challengers. Tom Tillis, quote, Tom Tillis is making a big mistake for America and the wonderful people of North Carolina, Trump wrote on Truth Social Saturday. Tillis compared himself to former Democratic Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kristen Sinema of Arizona, both of whom became independents by the end of their tenures, without explicitly naming them, saying that the independent voices attract scorn in politics. Well, he's not wrong there, because we are so, I'll come back on camera, because we are so tied to either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And personally speaking, you've heard me say this before, I have no use for either party. Now granted, when I vote, 9 times out of 10, I will lean left. Unless there's an independent or a Green Party candidate that actually is aligned with how I vote. Rarely I might see a liberal Republican or a blue Republican who I might cast my vote for, who is in line with how I vote. But that's rare here in North Carolina. And North Carolina also allows people, residents, to register as not affiliated. Just go ahead and call me an independent. But for some reason, they don't want to do this. And I'll give you a prime example. There is a city called Monroe. It's actually a suburb of Charlotte. It is east of here. The state General Assembly just passed a law that is going to allow the city of Monroe, who up until this point, for their mayor and their city council, had nonpartisan elections, meaning nobody ran as a Republican or a Democrat and all this. And their elections were always happening on the odd year, which means they were supposed to have an election this year. Well, not so. They're actually going to get an extra year, people to set up their running, and the election will happen in even years. That was one of the tenets in the bill. So there will be an election in the city of Monroe next year in 2026, and they will get an extra year added to their terms, but they have to list themselves as either Democrat, or Republican. And here's the thing. If there is someone who is going to run for city council or even the mayor as an independent, their name automatically doesn't go on the ballot. They have to gather enough signatures to then be put on the ballot so they could run. And again, just like people, when you see people driving on the highway, why is everybody tied to the middle lane? Because they believe back in the 70s that the middle lane had the best gas mileage. And then people are tied to their parties rather than the issues. People don't vote on issues anymore. They vote on the party or a single issue to their detriment because elections have consequences. But let's continue with his statement. Democrats recently lost 2 such leaders who were dedicated to making the Senate more of a functional and productive legislative body that got things done, but they were shunned after they courageously refused to cave to their party bosses to nuke the filibuster for the sake of political expediency. They ultimately retired, and their presence in the Senate chamber has been sorely missed every day since. Now, I personally, as far as former Senator Joe Manchin and former Senator Kristen, I actually think that, I'll just go ahead and say it, they were cowards. They were cowards. Joe Manchin should have just essentially gone ahead and flipped over to Republican. He probably would have kept his seat there in West Virginia. Because he began talking like a conservative Republican, though he did not go as far as becoming a MAGA Republican. In fact, he railed against the MAGAs. Kristen, on the other hand, dipped her toes into the MAGA pool, and she flipped. And so, to Tom Tillis's point, we lost 2 Democratic senators, which also means we lost those seats as well. And so, one of the things, or rather the most important thing now, is for this country and the Democrats, the left, to get the House and the Senate back. Particularly because the MAGA governors are holding empty seats hostage that might very well go to Democrats if they were to go ahead and hold a special elections to fill these seats. Yes, there are areas in Texas and a couple of other states where their representatives who were older, in their 70s and beyond, who passed away in their seats. And those seats haven't been filled up, which means these people are paying taxes without representation. And 2 of those seats are from the state of Texas. Governor Greg Abbott is not going to hold special elections to refill those seats. And he is one of Donald Trump's lieutenants. He's doing it on purpose. Again, to the people of Texas, you got it wrong when you reelected him. Beto O'Rourke should actually be your governor. And those seats would have been filled regardless of whether that person was a Republican or Democrat, and then we could see fair voting in the House. The same thing is true with the Senate. The Senate is full with a 47 to 53 split to the Republicans. And so this is a great day for North Carolina being a purple state, and that we could potentially, depending on who the Democratic nominee is, capture the Senate seat back in North Carolina. And then in 2028, take the Senate seat away from Ted Bunn, because he's no better than Tom Tillis. He's not. But now Tom Tillis is saying, it's interesting that now that he's retired and not running for re-election, he's doing essentially the same thing that Mitch McConnell, senator from Kentucky, who's not running for re-election, and you don't really hear too much talk about him anymore because of that, is also now calling the Trump administration and the MAGA factions out loud. He says, it underscores the greatest form of hypocrisy in American politics. When people see independent thinking on the other side, they cheer. But when those very people see independent thinking coming from their side, they scorn, ostracize, and even censure them, he continued. Even prior to Tillis's announcement, the North Carolina seat was a top target for Democrats as they seek to cut into the GOP's 53 to 47 majority next year. Tom Tillis's decision not to run for re-election is another blow to Republican chances as they face a midterm backlash that puts their majority at risk, Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee spokesperson Maeve Coyle said in a statement. Even Tillis admits the GOP plan to slash Medicaid and spike costs for families is toxic. And in 2026, Democrats will flip North Carolina's Senate seat. Democrats are hopeful they can recruit former Governor Roy Cooper to enter the contest, which already features Representative Wally Nickel. No matter which MAGA loyalist Donald Trump handpicks to run in North Carolina, I'm the Democrat who's ready to take them on and win, Nickel said in a statement Sunday. I've flipped a tough seat before, and we're going to do it again. And the article winds up with the National Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee Chairman Tim Scott. Tim Scott is the African-American senator from South Carolina who is a MAGA and Trump supporter, as is Lindsey Graham, who is also from the Senate seat. And for all of his chest beating and everything, this was what Tim Scott got in the administration. He was named and charged to get more Republican senator seats in 2026 for the Republican Party. He expressed confidence the GOP would still be able to defend the seat without Tillis in the race. President Trump has won North Carolina 3 times, and the state's been represented by 2 Republican senators for over a decade, Scott said in a statement. That streak will continue in 2026 when North Carolinians elect a conservative leader committed to advancing an agenda of opportunity, prosperity, and security. Tim Scott is right. North Carolinians will elect a leader committed to the advancement of an agenda of opportunity, prosperity, and security for the working people, not millionaires and billionaires. He's wrong in that respect, even though that's not what he said. That is just political speak of what he means. And so we can go ahead and celebrate today that Tom Tillis is not running for re-election next year, and that hopefully someone can talk Roy Cooper into jumping into the race, because he can win this seat. He can win this seat and secure it for the Democrats and the left. That's all I wanted to talk to you all about today. As always, I end with this blurb. Elections have consequences. Hashtag 2026 midterm elections. Have a good Sunday, and I'll see you on the next video.